Welcome back to another MOTOBOB video. You join me at Almeria today and I'm here to ride the brand new BMW S 1000RR. Quite honestly, I'll be straight up with you, I can't even touch the size of what this thing can do on the track, but all the same, I'm going to run you through what's new for 2023 and tell you why I still had a very good time riding this bike today. By the way, they're also testing the F900R Cup bikes out on the track today, so that's a new one make series that's going to support British superbikes, and those bikes don't have many changes from stock, but one that they certainly do have is a full aero system, so if you hear a bit of that coming past, then that's what that is. So look, this is more of an evolution from the previous generation than a complete overhaul, but there's still some nice little tweaks. I mean, primarily the engine gets some updates that trickle down from their super premium homologation special M1000RR. So there's stuff like a new cylinder head, new intake geometries, there's a different airbox design. They do say it's giving it a greater spread of usable power across the whole rev range. And so if you're someone like me who might not necessarily be able to keep it in that peak power band all the time, it's actually quite rewarding. It's still a very fast bike, even in the mid-range. Now they've also given it an extra tooth on the rear sprocket, so that's to give it a bit more snap to the acceleration. And there's also a new design for the rear wheel in terms of the spacers. So it's got captive spacers, which help to make the rear wheel installation and swaps a little bit easier. So if you're doing track days where you need to do that, then obviously that's a nice update. Now there's also changes to the geometry, so there's a little bit more trail for this year, so it seems like they're trying to add back in a little bit of stability, and there's also quite a lot of changes in the sort of tech package. There's revised software for the quick shifter. They say they've done that to make it smoother and easier to use, and I've got to say, even where most quick shifters do suffer a little bit going through neutral, let's say you're going out the pit lane here and you go from first to second through neutral, a lot of bikes like the R1250R that we rode yesterday have a bit of a lurch or a bit of a stutter, but this is super smooth. I mean, in the upper ranges where it's really revving, it's super smooth anyway, but it really is one of the best quick shifters I think I've ever used. Now there are also a couple of features that are really targeted towards more advanced riders. So there's a slick setting for the ABS, and also this little steering angle sensor, which you can see just in the cockpit here, and that feeds into the new slide control. So when you're on the power, it'll allow the bike to step out a certain amount before it brings it back in check, and you can define how much steering angle you're willing to let it go to. And also it works the same for the braking, so if you're hard on the rear brake and getting it to slide out, you can set it so it doesn't get too sideways and out of control. Honestly, didn't get a chance to test that out today, but sounds pretty cool. There's a few little tweaks to the back end in terms of styling. They've also made the license plate easier to get off for track days. Some of the bikes today have it removed and it really does look quite clean. And then there's a couple of things that are standard fit now, like the USB socket and the lithium lightweight battery. So yeah, some interesting little tweaks for this year, and also the bike that we're riding today has some, pretty nice accessories. In fact, it's pretty much dripping in all the stuff you can get. So it looks to have the M package, which gives you the option of this beautiful paint job. It's got the M Sport levers, which fold and are adjustable. You've got the lever guard there. You've got M Sport brakes as well, or M brakes they call them. Fancy pegs here, which are adjustable. We've got the Acropovich silencer, which I started up earlier. Here's how that sounds. And this one even has the carbon wheel set, which obviously helps with agility and quickness of turning and that sort of thing, because it's rotating an unsprung mass, so the lighter the better, but also it looks absolutely 100% bling. And I think that's one of the reasons I've really enjoyed myself today. This is a beautiful looking bike. If you're doing photos and video and you're riding it and you're just generally around it, I can see why this is something that people would want to have in the garage. It's one of my favorite looking sports bikes, especially in this sort of color scheme and finish. I think it looks absolutely incredible. Really like this sort of mean front end with the LED lighting. Really like the attention to detail, like the little RRs in the plastic there. The winglets look cool. I think they said they add like 22 pounds of downforce, not for somebody going the speeds I'm going, but it definitely adds to the look of the front end. And the new tidier tail end looks great as well. And of course, this thing is ridiculously fast. Like, even if you're not the best on the track, you can still open it up on the straights and it absolutely flies. All the bikes that I've ridden today have been set in the sort of race layout for the dash. It simplifies it a bit. It gives you your lean angles and how much brake and traction control you're using, but also the rev counter, which is pretty prominent, sort of compresses the 0 to 8,000 RPM range, and then it focuses on the upper rev range. So yeah, it's sort of a little bit confusing at first if you don't realize, because you feel like you're not revving it much from the visuals, but actually you're sort of in the mid-range. And there's where it's really easy to ride and easy to get on with. There's a richness to the mid-range and it's still very fast, but it's not hair-raising. But if you do just bang it down a gear, into second, coming out a corner, really rev it up, it's just phenomenally quick. So yes, it's really got that kind of exotic sports bike vibe. It looks good, it sounds good, it's super fast, but what I will say is it is pretty easy to get on with. You know, some riders might get a bit intimidated by a bike like this, but I thoroughly recommend checking one out if you've ever just dreamed of owning one, because genuinely, it's surprisingly easy to ride. I mean, it's got all the rider aids and safety features that you could ever need as a newer rider. And even some of the more experienced riders today were saying things like the TC don't feel super invasive. You know, the power delivery is quite predictable. It doesn't feel like super twitchy in the handling either. Braking is strong, but it's not like gonna throw you over the front. And everything just feels kind of easy and nice to get on with. Plus, I've also found it sort of relatively comfortable. I mean, it is tall in the seat and obviously the pegs are tucked up a little bit, but I haven't found it like incredibly weighty on the wrists. You've got quite a high windscreen there as well, so there's a lot of wind coverage. So I'd really be tempted to get one of these when we're back in the UK as a press bike and try it out on the road for a bit. BMW stuff is just so nicely designed as well, like the layout of the switchgear and how easy it is to use, and I love their TFT dashes, the best in the business in my book. They're just so easy to read, simple to use, but they just look great as well. They look exciting. So yeah, many thanks to BMW for the opportunity to come and experience and appreciate this incredible machine today. As always, I'd love to know what you think of it down in the comments below, so do let me know. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.